Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Gerard Pratt, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Warrant Officer Nikolai Rofe. We warmly welcome the family of Private Harvey James Petersen, including Mr. Robert Swartzen, retired Member of Parliament, Queensland, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome members of the Polish Ex-Servicemen's Association who are in attendance today. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony from across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If able, I invite you all now to please stand and join in singing the national anthem. Please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through until the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Harvey James Petersen. Harvey Petersen was born on the 16th of July, 19, in Babina, in Sugar Town, located on Bruce Highway, about 60 kilometres south of Cairns in Queensland. Harvey was the youngest son of Peter and Kathleen Petersen, who lived nearby in Harvey Creek. By the time the Second World War began, Harvey Petersen was working as a farmer and had served in the local militia. He enlisted on the 2nd of July, 1940. At the time, he was 20 years old, but he gave his age as 21, possibly to avoid the need to obtain parental consent. Petersen joined the 3rd Infantry Training Battalion, and while undertaking initial training, was found absent without leave in March 1941, and again in April, being admonished and then fined for these infractions. In May 1941, Petersen was transferred to the newly formed No. 1 Independent Company. As the company continued to be built, he had a period of pre-embarkation leave in June. With the threat of war with Japan looming, in July the company was sent to Gaving on the island of New Ireland, part of Papua New Guinea. Petersen was admitted to hospital in Inogra before making the trip, but followed his unit soon afterwards, travelling via Brisbane and Rebelle. On the 21st of January 1942, the invasion began when about 60 Japanese aircraft attacked Gaving. Although the commandos shot down a number of aircraft, the company's only means of escape, the Indostar, was damaged. The schooner managed to sail to Kout, but was in a poor state, a threat made worse by the fact that the Japanese naval force was approaching. As Japanese troops reached the airfield, there was fighting as the Australians blew up the airfield and supply dump. Hopelessly outnumbered, those who had not been killed or captured fell back to Sook. On the 28th of January, the company moved to Kout, where they repaired the Indostar, with the aim of sailing at night to reach the east coast of New Britain. By the 31st of January, they had reached Kaluli Harbour, but by then the fighting on New Britain was over and the Japanese had captured Rebelle. The Australians became prisoners of war. After a few months at Rebelle, the officers were separated from their NCOs and men. They would be taken to Japan, where they would remain in captivity for the rest of the war. The NCOs and men, however, had a much sadder state. At the end of June, these men, along with the 2nd 22nd Battalion, other members of Lark Force who had been captured on New Britain, and about 200 civilians, boarded the Japanese passenger ship, the Montevideo Maru, where they sailed unescorted to Hainan Islands. On the 1st of July 1942, the unmarked ship was sighted by an American submarine, the Sturgeon, off the coast of Luzon in the Philippines. Firing its torpedoes, the Sturgeon sank the Montevideo Maru. A handful of Japanese crew were rescued. None of the prisoners survived. At home in Australia, news about the fate of those on board the Montevideo Maru was slow to arrive. Petersen was initially reported missing. In October that year, the Petersen family received the word that Harvey was a prisoner of war at Rebelle, with details that he was well treated and fit. Confirmation of his death didn't come until late 1945. The grief of the Petersen family lasted many years. They continued to place in memoriam notices in the newspaper, the Cairns Post, and for many years to come. Each notice contained a new message. By 1954, the unabated grief was expressed tearfully. Not just today, but every day, in silence, we remember. Harvey Petersen's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His portrait is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is one but many of the stories of service, sacrifice, told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Harvey James Petersen, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
If able, please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow no old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere, or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his final moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you all for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.